or good morning even, and welcome to this seminar. So this is Britannica's CPD taster, where we'll be discussing fake news awareness and the importance of 21st century research skills. So before we begin, I'd actually just like to ask you a couple of questions. And because there's not too many of us, feel free to unmute yourselves and discuss this. But the first is, how confident are your pupils in spotting fake news? And the other is, do you think your students would be able to carry out research tasks effectively and confidently? So if I could just have a little bit of feedback on your experience, I'll give you a minute just to discuss.
Okay, I can tell you about my students. They're very used to do research work and work in teams for projects. So yeah. I think, yes, they can carry out research very effectively, but I'm not that sure about spotting fake news. They're usually given hints or where to look for the information, so they don't have to check on maybe new websites that they don't know if they are fake or not. So first question, yes. Second, not confident that they can spot them.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the problems is that they don't check the sources where they take the information from. So that would be, in our case, the main problem. The fact that they don't care attention to the type of webs they're looking at.
Okay, yeah, great. So we think that the research skills are quite good. However, the spotting of reliable resources are not as such. Does anyone else have anything else to add? No, that's not a problem. Okay, so thank you for that little bit of feedback. It just helps me understand your personal experience a little bit more. So many children, like I said, are not confident in spotting fake news, which, of course, with the world that we are currently living in, is extremely worrying. And what's even worse is that they have so many ways to access fake news since the development of technology. And this no longer only includes like the internet, but of course, social media as well. So therefore, it's our responsibility as educators to ensure that we can differentiate between what is reliable and what is unreliable, and then pass that on to our students. Okay, so just to introduce myself before I continue. My name is Holly Carlisle. So I was a secondary school English teacher for a few years prior to working at Britannica. I moved to Britannica in 2019 because I personally decided to work more with teachers and help them face everyday obstacles in the classroom through the use of Britannica. So since being here, I've created a number of CPD sessions that look at popular challenges in the classroom and that focus on how Britannica can assist with these. So this session is a taster of one I would usually run entitled Research Skills. And I chose this one with you today because I think it's a topic that is extremely important to tackle right now, with more children learning from home than ever. I don't know your situation. Ours is still certainly remote, if not blended learning. And with fake news being everywhere. So a lot happened in 2020 and continues to, meaning a lot of news and opinions are floating around and being published. And so, as I said, it's down to us to equip the students with the skills that they need to cope with the overload of information and become critical thinkers, which, as you've mentioned, is a bit of a challenge for them. So first, I would just like to address the 3 learning objectives of this session, which is to identify why it is important for pupils to research effectively or to know how to recognise the 5 stages of research, which is something Britannica came up with to help the breakdown of the process of researching, and then finally understand how we can help as well. So to put things into perspective before we start, Here is a slide showing just some of the headlines that hit the UK regarding the global pandemic within the first few months. You may have had similar, but with headlines like "stay at home if you have a cold," and another stating that 80% of people will have the virus, it's no wonder that their heads are spinning and they might feel anxious and not know what to believe. I believe at one point there was even a headline stating that drinking bleach helps the virus. Thank you to President Trump. So very worrying, of course. And on top of this, since then, there have obviously also been other events all over the globe. And so with many things happening around the world in 2020 and the pandemic continuing, the amount of fake news and unreliable information out there has only grown, leaving our students very confused and misled with an array of information thrown at them. And so on that note, I just want to give you something else to think about before we move on. So we're just going to go on to another question. You said about reliable and unreliable resources. So now I just want you, if you could discuss with me, how frequently do your students use Wikipedia as a research tool or any other well-known research platforms such as like Google or Yahoo?
Okay, in my case, when they are given the hints to work on a project and they have their own links, then they don't have to. But if it's another kind of work for an oral presentation, let's say, and they should find the information themselves, they usually go to Wikipedia. They even get the language simple English, so they can find the information easier and take that information for granted, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful. Does anyone else have any experience of students using Wikipedia or any other research platforms that is like a go-to?
Well, mine use Wikipedia as well.
Yeah. Okay, so that's quite a frequently mentioned platform. And the reason why I use it is because, one, it's popular, but it comes with a lot of issues. So just to address this and put it into perspective more clearly, here's a headline that appeared not long ago, and it states that only 1% of Wikipedia's articles are actually written by its editors, meaning it really is quite worrying as to whom is writing the rest. It's also worrying that when they explore the internet for educational purposes, they are seeing some highly inaccurate information. And to add to that, in this case, not only is Wikipedia written by just 1% of its editors, who these editors are writing this content is another concern in itself. And therefore, from the start, students are learning to trust sources that are not educational and have not gone through any sort of strict editorial process. And as educators, we pride ourselves on being diverse, embracing our cultures and beliefs, and using platforms like this, the editors will not share that same passion or strive for accuracy, unfortunately. And we all know that Wikipedia is not the only type of platform that publishes unreliable information. And this is something that our students need to be extremely aware of. So just moving on onto how we can tackle this. Here is an example of how I've tried to stress to students the importance of knowing where their information is coming from. Feel free to use this as a lesson example if you'd like. So recently I created a fake news lesson for a school in the UK to raise awareness of what to be wary of when gathering information for research. And in this lesson, the students were asked to highlight key points in Wikipedia article that spoke about riots in Johannesburg in 2019. That was the topic I was teaching them. Just something random that I knew that they wouldn't have a lot of knowledge on. They also had to watch a news video that came from social media that showed what was going on in the city and what the riots looked like. So no student was against this. They all read the article and they all watched the video. they completed the task and they had some great feedback. The students had summarised the article beautifully and had used description to describe what the riots were like, judging from the video. So they completed their task well. However, despite those efforts, I then introduced another article by the BBC, who Britannica actually worked closely with during lockdown and the pandemic. And the article by the BBC stated how videos like this one that I'd shown them had been going around the internet presented as the riots in Johannesburg in 2019, but actually they were images and clips from riots in Nigeria in 2014, meaning the video was actually fake. I also went on to tell them that only 1% of the written information on Wikipedia had been written by a professional. And so working out the probability that someone had written this as they experienced the riots firsthand was quite minimal. So from that, it's safe to say that students were quite shocked. And this was in an Ofsted outstanding school as well. So once they'd been made aware of the BBC article and that stated the video was fake, as well as the information on Wikipedia, they realised how not only is it difficult to find reliable sources, but also it's something that they're going to need to be wary of, and that they need to hone these critical thinking skills that they're going to obviously need essentially for higher education. And I believe from that moment on, the teacher who carried out the lesson was always going to use it before research projects and pass it on to other teachers just to raise awareness. So what I want you to think about now, whilst I'm going through the rest of this, is 1, what do we need to consider when teaching students how to research? And 2, how can Britannica help? And hopefully I will then answer these questions in the rest of the presentation for you. So for the rest of the session, I'm going to go through with you how our platform not only encourages excellent research skills from an early age, but also supports teachers with the process and supplies tools that will make research simpler and more enjoyable for students. So first, as you can see, we have created a 5-step process where we understand the project first, followed by choosing the topic and planning, gathering the information needed, recording and organising that information, and finally writing the essay or creating the final project. So for each, not only do we have our research platform to assist, we have also created, that's available within the platform, a research study guide for the students where they can access resources that will guide and support them along the way. So in the full CPD session, I would actually go over each individual point. But what I have done for today is selected key points and just summarize how Britannica is a valuable tool for encouraging effective research and identifying what a trustworthy source looks like. So to start us off, I showed you how unreliable some sources are and how they are can be for children. But of course, we want to know then how are we different and why is this important? And we've got an image of our platform on the left. So Britannica is a safe and secure platform. All of our information stored has been through a meticulous vetting process and is strictly for educational purposes, only containing non-biased information. So this means students can independently research and not worry about whether the information is accurate or not. Everything a student finds in Britannica has been written by a subject specialist. So these subject specialists come from all over the world and have a certain area of expertise. And once the specialist has actually written the content, it then goes to our editorial team, whereby everything is fact-checked to ensure the information provided is accurate and reliable. In terms of numbers, we have around 4,000 global contributors, which include like Nobel laureates, important politicians, and 150 editors who facilitate the editorial process. And approximately articles are updated about every 20 minutes a day. So number 2 is, you can see the image. You can see in the image we have the important feature or tool, which is the citation tool. Sorry, there you go. So again, not only does this give parents peace of mind that the students are accessing trustworthy and reliable information, but also it means that the students are learning the importance of citation and how to cite from a young age. They're available in 4 different styles: MLA, Harvard, Chicago, manual style, and APA. And in particular, this is a very useful and effective tool for your upper secondary students who are learning how to reference and the importance of plagiarism, especially when preparing for university. And number 3 is Web's Best Sites. And this allows pupils to explore the web using only relevant and reliable sources for their information. So not only do we provide a safe platform for research to take place, but we also act as a starting point for their research, whereby if they do want to go and explore other areas of the internet independently, they can do so by using this tool, collecting more research while staying safe and educational and in an educational environment. So this way, students can begin to identify what a trustworthy source looks like and master the skills of researching. Okay. So of course, not only are we a trustworthy source, but we also provide access to a variety of resources, which is crucial for teaching kids how to carry out extensive research. So we have this range to cater for all learning types and allow students to engage with different resources and be able to evaluate them from a young age. So firstly, we have thousands of articles in a number of subject areas that align to your curriculum, which is perfect for gathering the initial content. On top of this, for your more visual learners, we have access to rights cleared images and videos, each of which come with an overview of the videos, and with the videos come a transcript. This will make it easier for your less able pupils who find an excessive amount of information too overwhelming, and will become more engaged with research through imagery. As well as this, as you can see, to really challenge your pupils, we have access to Ebsco Articles under magazines and journals here. In terms of research, this type of reading is essential for higher education, and we've made it accessible for all abilities and ages in order to introduce high-level research skills to students from a young age. Okay, and in addition to this, you can see that we also have access to primary sources, which is perfect for your humanities subjects, should they want to evaluate a piece of literature. And finally, as I mentioned, we've also got Web's Best Sites. So as I said, it is this variety that will not only encourage students to expand their knowledge on different reading texts, but also get them familiar with what different texts look like from a reliable source. And so, of course, on the topic of resources, let's focus on our content and encouraging research in safe areas. So we've spoken about spotting reliable sources, but for the final part, I just want to dip into how Britannica can actually assist when developing these research skills. So giving learners the freedom to research a topic when setting them a task can be tricky for some students, because if they do not have strong areas of expertise or specific interests, they may struggle with where to start. So giving learners, or in this case, giving them Britannica, we can help them through the article browse feature, which pupils can use to start to explore broadly and then select key ideas from a certain topic. And as you can see from the image, we have a number of subjects to cater for all learners' hobbies and interests, as well as subjects that align to your curriculum. So once you actually click into the topic, you will then find subcategories. So if I was to click into, let's say here, arts and literature, I would then be supplied with subcategories that relate to arts and literature, such as novels and paintings and more, until they find what they want. And as I mentioned, not only does this help students explore around vague topics and collect specific ideas, but it also helps students understand how to organize and subcategorize information. So we need to equip our students with independent research skills whereby they confidently know how to find information safely and start thinking about subject crossovers, and so preparing them for a university level where this is required. And so this article browse is basically here a space where learners can develop independent research skills safely from a young age, whether that is in the classroom or at home, and then explore around a variety of topics for whatever purpose. And then, as well as giving learners the freedom, we also cater for all learning abilities whilst researching, which can be very difficult. So you may have seen prior to this presentation a number of tools and features within Britannica that serve the purpose of catering for different learning needs and supporting pupils no matter what their ability. But for independent researchers, the most obvious differentiating tool we have is that we provide all of our research in 3 reading levels. So for secondary, you would typically be starting to use the intermediate level, where if you want to challenge a student, you can actually go into reading level 3, and then your pupils will immediately have access to more in-depth and complex information on that certain topic. So therefore, challenging your more able and more gifted pupils have never been easier, simply through this easy to access and pre-prepared differentiated content. And of course, similarly with less able pupils who may struggle with literacy, if they are struggling with the content supplied to them, they can simply move down to level 1, where information will become less complex and more straightforward to understand meaning of our content that will suit all reading abilities, whether they're researching from home at the moment or in the classroom. Okay. And so the final point here just brings us back to the end of the CPD taster, where I hope I have gone through how we can tackle these learning objectives and highlighted the importance of teaching young learners how to spot fake news and why it's essential for them to have research skills that they carry with them for the rest of our lives. And of course, then also how Britannica can help you in this. So again, I just want to stress that with these 5 stages, of course, today I only focused on the gathering of information and finding reliable sources part of it. But please know, as well as the actual site resources, we have got a student area where they can have access to tips on how to take a step-by-step approach to researching. We've also got, which we can share with you after this, a research guide. So again, that's actually full of tips and resources to help both students follow them along and teachers as well when they are teaching or working on a research project. Okay, so I'm now going to give 5 minutes for any questions. Please feel free to ask away. And I just want to say thank you for coming to this session, and I hope it's helped you see how Britannica can help in this certain area. Feel free to unmute yourself for questions. That's not a problem.
Thank you very much, Holly. I would like to add that it would be very interesting to have this document with tips for searching, because I think that what was more interesting for teachers doing the CPD and doing the pilot is how to do an accurate searching using Britannica tools. So today you have shown some of the tools that students can use. So going to the advanced level or going to or to the articles. But maybe having this guide would be very useful to be more effective when looking for information.
That's not a problem. I can actually show you the guide. I've got it at hand now. So if I just show you what we've created. So if I stop presenting and then start presenting again. So here it is. So you should be able to see this now. I've literally created this only a few months ago because I updated it with new information and tried to keep it modern. So that's just a little introduction we have and how Britannica can help. So the first couple of pages is just some information and some guidance. Then we start the 5-step process. And then there are, like I said, resources for each step. So we've got understanding the project, and they can all be filled in online because, of course, at the moment, students are still sometimes remote learning or blended learning. So at least you know that they've got access to these resources at home and in the classroom. They don't have to have them printed off. And then if we go along again, we've got a research guide saying to select the topic and plan the project, what they already know, what they need to learn. Again, an information web, it tells them how to use that and navigate around it. A little bit of information on how to gather their research and where to go for it, primary and secondary resources, how to use search terms. I've tried to keep it as brief as possible because I don't want students to feel overwhelmed. Just a little bit of information on this step is all that's needed. How to evaluate information. There you go. Some note taking, so the source that they've used, reasons to use that source, reasons not to, so they can start evaluating whether the sources that they are finding is relevant and reliable. And then recording facts, a bit of a little boring task for them to be taught, isn't it? I don't know if I ever taught how to organize their facts, but that's why we've made this, of course, so that it's there for them. Note taking. So again, preparing them for university on how to summarize what they need to write down, like the page number. And then they've got a little task as well. So they have to find like the key words in there and summarize this text. And then finally, creating and writing the task. Of course, Britannica School can't help with that side of it, but what we can do is give them that citation. And I've created here then 2 presentations, one on how to write a written assignment and one on how to create an engaging presentation. And again, they're all downloadable. You just need to click them and you'll have a copy. And it's literally a whole PowerPoint on how they would organize like a bigger piece of work, a final project. Okay, and then so that's that plan, yeah.
So yes, if you could send me these materials, if we are allowed to have it.
Yes, no, of course, you can.
Together with the video, yes, with the presentation, that would be great for the teachers in the pilot.
That's no problem at all, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Does anyone have
I've got a couple of general questions.
Yes.
Where we haven't, I don't know if any of the other teachers have started using it, but we haven't. Yeah, basically, I just wanted to know how do I think Alex talked about that last session, but it wasn't too clear for me. Like, but teachers are available to access it already through ClickEdu, but what about the students? They also have to access it through ClickEdu, or how's that?
Alex, do you want to answer this question?
Hi, yeah. Now, it is a good question, and it's also dependent on the way that the students access the portal. I believe they should be able to access the platform through ClickEdu if they've got their own individual login to that platform. That is also something, Raquel, could you clear up? Do the students have access to ClickEdu so they can get access to Britannica through that way?
Raquel, we can't hear you. Or I can't, at least.
Yeah, I think we can.
And now?
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Okay, I don't know what happened. So yes, the students should have the same as the teacher. So they go to ClickEdu and then they should have the link to Britannica. And when you import this information into your Google Classroom, for example, It's what I sent you, that as they are not logged in through ClickEdu, they have to write this username and password. Yes?
Okay. All
but
right.
they should have, and if not, please send me an email so that I can email.
Yeah, no, we haven't checked that yet with them, so
okay.
Dominic, could I just ask?
Yeah.
So I think did you have some issues last time where the Britannica School link wasn't showing up in your ClickEdu?
Yeah, but now I do have access.
Right.
Yes,
I'll organize that. She sorted that out.
Okay, good. Okay.
And the second question I should ask from my school, because basically my school doesn't know anything about this, so I'm like the person who's like, I don't know what information you gave them beforehand, but they have no idea about anything. So they just want to know, like, is there any payment involved? How long? If not, how long is it? Is this service free, or what's the deal with that?
Dominic, I will give a phone call to Nuria, because this has been explained to the coordinators meeting. Maybe she was not there the day we explained, and Alex presented Britannica to the coordinators of Fundació Trams.
Okay.
So maybe
the thing is, Nuria was had some medical problems for a while, so
yeah. So I will give them a phone call. Don't worry, I will explain to her.
Okay, you think you could actually call Mark, because Mark is the head of secondary school, and he's more involved with that.
Okay, great. I will do that.
Just to let you know, Dominic, the pilot is ongoing up until May, so there's no obligation from your school side in regards to payment. This is all a free pilot, and we're just trying to support your school, with the challenges of online learning. During this time, so you can access the platform, integrate it with Google Classroom, and just hopefully support the teachers with online learning. At the end of the pilot period, that's when we can have a conversation about if the school wants to subscribe. But for during the pilot period, there's no obligation.
Yeah, of course, but they just we don't want to really get into it if in the end they're not willing to pay for it after the pilot,
Yes, but Dominic, Fundació Trams will have a conversation with Britannica, yes, to talk about all this information before we end the pilot program.
Okay.
Okay, so I will inform Mark, yes, about all this.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you for asking, because if not, I wouldn't have known that you don't have all this information. So thank you.
Yeah, basically, Mark is like, so what's going on? Do we have to pay for this?
I will.
Any idea about it?
I will inform him. Yeah.
I understand as well that you don't want to commit to something now if you're not going to pay later, but this is an open and free access platform and pilot, so I would just recommend making the most of it during this time, because it's a free resource. We're here to support you, and it can only be beneficial for the teachers and students. So please, even if you're not thinking of subscribing afterwards, just make the most of it, because it could support teachers and students.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we should give it a try, before it is decided if we use it or not. Well, anyway,
that's why everyone is doing the pilot.
Yeah. These guides that you designed, you said it's available for students on the students area. If they enter ClickEdu, and Britannica, is there a way they can access that and complete the documents?
Yes, so this document that I've created, that I've just shown you, that's one that I've created myself. However, I will show you now. If I'll stop sharing, and then I will share 2 seconds on this screen. There you go. So if I go on to actual Britannica School, you should be able to see that. If I go into, let's just say I'll go into middle, it's on all of them. Up here where it says students, that's where you'll find all the tips. So the one that I've created, it's a little more broken down and concise, and there's more resources. I've tried to make it so that if you gave it out to the pupils, it would be a lot more engaging and easier to follow. But in terms of the majority of the textual information on each step, it's just in this students area up here. And there you go. and you'll get each of the steps.
Okay.
And it'll just give them like a little bit of information on each. It's just a lot more, like I said, there's more in there. It's just I tried to make a shorter version for them to make it easier for them to follow. Okay. And you'll also have down the bottom here some how to do like book reviews, presentations, research papers. So there's a little more on there as well. And the students will have access to that just by clicking up here. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, lovely. Yeah, it's clear enough. Good.
Does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining this session. I will get that recording sent over as well as that research guide. I'll send that to Alex at the end of this to forward on.